Hey everybody, Darren Burrows here. Today I'm sitting down with Anna Scott. Anna and I have known each other for a few years, and I'm so excited that she's here today to talk about how she vets private borrowers as a private lender. When we're looking at doing private lending, it's important that we look at multiple criteria before we decide on who we want to lend our funds to. So Anna's going to walk us through how she vets her private lending deals, and she's going to walk us through her system. Before we get into it today with Anna, if you haven't done so already, you can subscribe to my channel. You can also hit the notification bell, and please feel free to leave comments and questions below for me. And without further ado, let's get into it. Anna, so great to have you here today. Why don't you give everyone a bit of a brief intro on who you are and what you do as a real estate investor?
Well, thank you so much, Darren, for giving me the opportunity to appear on your show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Doug and I started real estate investing about 2015, so a little over 5 years ago. And we had purchased an 8-unit building, actually not too far from here. We're at our cottage at the moment. But we've since accumulated an additional 7 buildings that we focus on long-term multifamily buy and hold strategy, and 7 of those buildings now we've done as joint venture money partners. So we have also done quite a bit of private lending in the interim, using registered funds, RSP, TFSA. We've also invested in private equities, private REIT, land development opportunities. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and we've really enjoyed it.
First, explain for people who are not familiar with it, what is private lending?
So, private lending is all about individuals lending to another individual. And you can actually lend to a corporation as well, but it's, an individual accesses the bank to finance that project that they're looking to do. And typically private lending is of short-term duration of less than a year, because ideally the investor has acquired a property, needs capital to do upgrades, improvements, fixes, and then will seek conventional institutional financing once they force the appreciation, are able to, the whole burst strategy, right, that they then can refinance, pull out some equity, and start over again, and with an institutional lender paying back the private lender.
There are really 2 types of private loans. So there are secured and unsecured. Can you explain the difference between the two?
So secured lending is it's secured against property, it's secured against real estate. It's the collateral, the security is the subject property, the building. It is a mortgage on the property, and so the mortgage can be funded through cash, through funds you gather through your HELOC, could be through an RSP or TFSA or any other registered product like a LIRA, a LIF. To register to create a mortgage on the property, you work with a really good real estate investing lawyer.
So our secured option is a mortgage. Our unsecured option is a promissory note. Can you explain what a promissory note is?
A promissory note is basically a glorified IOU. It is a promise to pay by the borrower to you. It is more so about relationship. It's more about trust. You're loaning them money based on all the information they provided you with up front.
In both scenarios, it's our job to vet our private deals. So how do you go about vetting your private lending opportunities?
So I actually just did a P-note $100,000 lend on a 16-unit building. And this now was a repeat loan to a couple that I've previously lent to. But I had an initial conversation with all the principals in the deal, because it was also a joint venture, and with another party. And I said, okay, first and foremost, tell me about you. What have you done? Have you done this before? I want to see your track record. I want to know what is it that you've previously been able to accomplish. I want to see past projects, the quality. I want to talk to other investors that have also lent them money. And I don't dangle the carrot in front of me saying that this is 14% you're going to get after 1 year, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't care. I want to know about you. Tell me about you. Who are you? And then tell me a little bit more. So keep it at a 30,000-foot level. And then I'll have them tell me a little bit more about the opportunity. Where is it? What city? Why did you choose that city? What's around that building? what's the vacancy level? What are you planning to do? What are your high level? Describe for me, why did you pick this and how long it's going to take? And then I'll go into the pro forma, the nitty gritty, the numbers, and say, okay, show me the project plan. How are you servicing the debt? How are you allocating? What's your budget? What are you going to do first? What are you going to do next? And then looking at the deal, then I look at the property, how much equity, what are they buying it for? What's the appraised value for? So is there an uplift potential, or what's my exposure, my loan to value? And I kind of like throw it at them fairly quickly, and how the confidence and the response, the quickness of the response, that tells me a lot about the knowledge they have. Like, you got to know your property inside and out. You got to be passionate about this property. You got to convince me that this is a great deal, Anna, that I want you to get in on as well. And then I look at them personally. Okay, what other projects have you got on the go? What's your overall exposure? What's your loan to value? Because a private lender is all about the equity in the deal, and how can I recover my costs? And then I look at the exit strategy. Okay, tell me not one, not two, maybe three different exit strategies. How are you going to get out of this to be able to pay me back and other investors that are in the project? And I want to know, who are the other investors? I want to know your total loan exposure on this deal, and I want to know your total portfolio exposure across all of your projects, all of your buildings, right?
After you've gone through your due diligence and vetted your potential borrower, what is the process then before you actually hand over those funds to feel secure in doing so? Because most people will tell you that capital preservation is a much bigger motivator than potentially earning high returns.
So if you do this properly and you work with, a good real estate lawyer, it's all about what you do up front in vetting the deal, vetting the people. It should never actually come to a point where a default occurs. But hey, shit could happen, and circumstances may be beyond their control. But there is due diligence legally that you need to, should do beforehand. Doing a title search, if it's going to be lent to corporation, a corporate search. You want to see if there's any judgments, or maybe they're in bankruptcy or have filed for bankruptcy before. Maybe there's some collections outstanding on them. So you need to do your due diligence on them personally.
Do you have different ways of securing against a promissory note versus something that has more security built into it?
A promissory note can be a very short document, very high level. Here's the particulars of the deal, how much I'm lending to you. Here's the start, here's the end, here's the interest rate, all that kind of stuff. But I have a 4-document package that I used when I do P notes. So a loan agreement, the P note is actually an addendum or a schedule within the loan agreement. So the loan agreement talks more about the nature of the loan, how the interest is calculated, when it's going to be paid back. There's a schedule of how many payments, and then I have something called a general securities agreement. So within the GSA, I've got the loan agreement and the P note. And the GSA is essentially, it states I can go against any and all assets that you hold, not just the subject property on which the loan is being made, or to mitigate my risk, I might do a loan against their primary personal residence, because people typically don't default on their primary residences. If there is going to be any kind of lending, it's going to be, they may have an issue with paying the loan back on that property. And I asked them to sign off on that. And then I also have an assignment of rents provision schedule that I add to that, to say, if it's like a multifamily, in the event that there is any kind of issue, I can go against and redirect the rents payable on this to help recover the amount of money that I've lent to you. With the right clauses, right provisions in your document package that you give to the borrower, have all these conversations, do all the due diligence up front, work with your lawyer, real estate lawyer, to do all those checking up front. You have more confidence and more reassurance that this deal, you are protected to an extent that you can go take action, civil action. If you had to, you would sue for your funds back. Whereas on a secured mortgage, like a secured against property, you have the same rights and privileges as a bank. So if in the event of default, you would have to go through the power of sale process in Ontario, like a foreclosure, but you can recover your investment because it is registered, and there are more legal protections for secured mortgages as opposed to unsecured private notes, right? So you're just lower on the ladder on the unsecured side. When you do private mortgages, you need to make sure the appraisal is issued in your name, issued to you by the appraisal company. You want to make sure that there's title insurance and that you're the benefit payee, title and fire insurance as well. So in the event of a claim, you are the one that will get the proceeds first.
And how do you track the progress on the deals that you lend on?
It's important to be on top of your borrowers. You can't just lend them the money, walk away, and hope for the best. You have to, with private lending, I want regular communications. I want them to give me an update. I want them to set up a Facebook page with status information, pictures about what they're doing. I need to know or want to make sure that my money is being worked on this project and this property. So it is every project that I lend on, I have a great relationship with the lender. I have conversations with them. We have Zoom meetings. We have, I don't do drive-bys necessarily because the projects aren't where I live, but it's so important because one of the other risks with P notes is there is statute in Ontario called the Limitations Act. And if you do not, if let's say you've sent out a demand letter for a default position saying you would work with your lawyer, send out a demand note if they hadn't paid within 14 to 30 days and had not contacted you or had not, like I have clauses that say in the event of default, there's a penalty. You're going to owe me this amount of money, but usually within 30 to 45 days, if I haven't heard from them or anything, I am well within my right to initiate legal proceedings. So I would work with a lawyer to say, here, issue a demand letter saying you owe this money and all this interest and all these penalties. But then, so the Limitations Act states that if within 2 years of the outstanding amount having not been paid, the loan actually, you have no recourse after that. You cannot go after your funds. The opportunity to recover your investment has been lost. So I have all these paragraphs, all these clauses. I've done the due diligence, have done the analysis, done a assessment of their total exposure, loan to value, and then I make that judgment call. But I'm on top of them.
So what are some of the potential pitfalls that you see with novice borrowers and novice lenders as well? Because I'm sure people are making mistakes on both sides of the transaction.
People don't know what to look for. They don't know how to vet a deal. They don't know how to vet the property. They don't know how to vet the person, the borrower. And, interesting enough, there are some borrowers who are, they're a little more experienced, but they may be able to take advantage of a novice investor, a novice lender. And it is kind of a known fact that experienced lenders tend to lend out to inexperienced borrowers, but experienced borrowers tend to go to inexperienced lenders. So experienced borrowers know what they're looking for and they may be able to get a lower interest rate because an inexperienced lender looks and sees, hey, I could make greater than the 1 or 2% that I'm making on this. So when an experienced lender or borrower comes to them and says, hey, what if I could give you 6 or 8% rate of return? The inexperienced lender says, wow, that's great. That's better than the 1 or 2% I'm getting. But an experienced lender like myself recognizes it is all about a win-win relationship.
How do you decide what interest rate you will charge on a private lending transaction?
Generally determining how much of an interest rate to charge, I look at what is it that they're actually doing? Are they ripping down walls? Are they reconfiguring? Are they going to put, pull out are they going to go down to the studs in terms of the level of renovation? And so there is more risk associated with that because what if, let's say, midway during the project, they run out of capital or something and then they have to walk away? Well, the bank won't allow financing on an uninhabitable place. Like to be habitable, it has to have heat and running water and it has to have electricity, right? And if the level of the nature of the project is such that it can't be financed, then I have to be able to, worst case scenario, I had to take over this building, Could I do that, right? So I may charge 14 to 16 points, 16% on a deal like that because there's more inherent risk versus if it's just a cosmetic, they're just putting new countertops in, new flooring, new fixtures, things like that, that it will still be financeable with an institutional lender type of thing, right? So, or sellable, resellable to recover my costs. So depending on the deal and the people and what they're looking to do and the duration of the term drives the amount of interest or the interest rate. So the secured deals tend to have a lower interest rate because as a lender, I have more protections. I can go, as I said, I can go against the property. I can initiate power of sale proceedings within a fairly short time. So if in the event of default from power of sale to actual sale and recovery of the asset, because I could end up owning that building as opposed, and I could turn around and sell it, can be as little as 60 days. But on a P-note side, I have to start, litigation, civil suit, a lawsuit.
In my experience, even those high rates of return on unsecured loans are not worth it if you ever have to pursue legal action, because the costs to recapture those funds will far outweigh the returns that you've made. So I love the fact that you do all of your due diligence on the front side to avoid potential disaster later on in the transaction. Tell us about your first deal and how you got into private lending.
The very first opportunity I had was a 6-month flip. A friend of mine was doing, needed to raise capital, and I wanted to kind of be a little bit risk averse, so I only lent $50,000. She ended up raising, I think it was $150,000 from 3 sources total. I got more information about the deal, what she was looking to do. The interest rate was 14%. Great first experience. She provided me with updates. I was a little bit, green. I wanted to have regular communications on the status of the progress being made on the flip. She ended up having an open house and invited all of her investors and friends to the walkthrough. We saw what she had done. It was professionally staged. It was a great first experience.
On that first $50,000 that you lent out, was that with cash? Was that a HELOC? Was that registered funds?
I could have done HELOC, but I decided I would just do pure cash. And then when the money came back, then I topped it up with some additional funds and lent it out on another flip. I had done probably about three flips in succession. Many of the initial deals that I had done were with active real estate investors that I knew through my real estate organization network that I'm a part of. But since that time, I have had numerous people come to me with both borrowing needs and opportunities, buildings and such that they're working on. But interestingly enough, I've had more people come to me with money that they're looking to place. The other thing too is people have like maybe 100,000 or less. So they've got 50,000, they've got 25, or maybe they're a little bit risk averse, so they're not wanting to put all their eggs in one basket. The people who will come to me saying they've got projects for which they need money, they want people with large first position or large RSP funds that they're willing to lend, 3, 4, 500,000 plus on a project. So as I work through and gain more experience in the mortgage agent role, I am able to pool several people's smaller sums of funds into opportunities that they might otherwise have been able to do individually.
I really like the systematic approach that you take to private lending, because it's not just about returns, it's about all the factors. Who's going to be borrowing this money? What are they going to be using it for? Why do they need it? And ultimately, when are you going to get your funds back?
It's a variety of different considerations. And it is all about relationships for the most part, in my experience with the lending that we've done. I love doing it. It's been very fruitful. It's been very lucrative for us. And right now I have 3 loans on the go, and I collect just a little over $2,000 a month in interest. So last year in 2019, I did my personal taxes, and it was close to $42,000 in interest that I made just on private lending.
I love it. Living your life, spending time with your family, traveling to Costa Rica in the winter, and making $42,000 a year in passive income. And that's just one of the income sources that you have in your real estate investing business. Anna, thank you so much for walking us through your incredibly thorough process on how you vet private borrowers and the system that you use in order to be able to lend out funds. If you enjoyed the session today with Anna, you know what to do. Go ahead and hit that like button below. You can also subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and please feel free to leave comments and questions below for me. You can also follow me on Facebook, Instagram, or check out my website at darrenvoros.com. With that, I'll say, Anna, thank you so much for being here with me today. I wish you the best of success on your real estate investing journey, and I look forward to when our paths will cross, hopefully very soon.
Thanks once
Thanks,
again.
Anna.
Really
No
appreciate it.
problem. Yeah, okay, we'll talk
Bye.
to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.